Special meeting of April 27, 2011, City Council Chambers, 3rd floor at 7:30 p.m. I'd like to begin by taking attendance. Mr. Deeb is not here. Mr. Rinaldi, not here. Mr. Urias? Here. Mr. Manuel is not here. Mrs. Keller is here. Mr. Seminara is not here. Mr. Velasco is not here. Ms. Hofstadter? Okay, I'd like to, Ms. Hofstadter, ask you to sit in for Mr. Rinaldi this evening. Okay, Mr. Rinaldi is not in attendance because he has recused himself from hearing this application. Okay. The next regularly scheduled meeting is for next Wednesday, May 4th, 2011. I'd like to start with our first public hearing at 7:30 p.m. City of Danbury Union Savings Bank application for a special exception for drive-through use as accessory to a bank in the CBD zone, 116 Main Street and 6 Fountain Street. Lot numbers I-14134 and I-14133, special exception number 712. Mr. Urias, before I ask you to read the legal notice, I'd just like to ask everybody tonight to please speak clearly into the microphone. We are being taped for future broadcasts on local cable access, and also I ask Ms. Hofstadter, Mr. Urias, and staff to do the same. Mr. Urias.
Notice is hereby given that the Planning Commission of the City of Danbury will hold public hearings commencing at 7:30 p.m. on April 27, 2011 in the City Council Chambers at City Hall, 155 Deerfield Avenue. Consider the following matters. I'll just read the first one. City of Danbury using Union Savings Bank application for special exception for drive-through use as an accessory to a bank in the CBD zone, 116 Main Street and 6 Fountain Street. Lot numbers I-14134 and I-14133, special exception number 712.
Thank you, Mr. Urias. Is there anyone here wishing to speak in favor of this application? Just state your name and address for the record, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, members of the Commission. My name is Gene Eriquez. I'm Vice President of the Union Savings Bank. Corporate office is located at 225 Main Street in Danbury. I'm a resident and taxpayer of the City of Danbury as well. First, let me thank the Commission for scheduling this special meeting to be able to hear these two applications that are before you this evening. As you may be aware, the City Council and the Mayor have previously approved, and Union Savings Bank is currently in contract with the City of Danbury to acquire parcels of land known as 116 Main Street, 6 Fountain Street, and 120 Main Street. Before you first this evening is the application for a special exception and site plan review of the Union Savings Bank proposal for 116 Main Street and 6 Fountain Street. But later this evening you will also be entertaining the special application request and site plan review of the 120 Main Street property. I'd like to introduce the members of our team who are here to address you this evening. First is our architects and our design team, Mr. Ron Picaro, Abby Siago, and Vince Stewart. It's Jane Bedona of Bedona Landscape Architects, Michael Mizuko, who is our civil engineer, Mr. Steve Cipolla from Frederick B. Clark Associates is our traffic engineer, and Mr. Michael Galante, who will be joining us later from that same firm, Attorney Ted Backer, who is representing Union Savings Bank, and Attorney Christopher Larry, who is representing the Connecticut Institute for Communities. Mr. Jim Maloney, who is the President and Chief Executive Officer of the Connecticut Institute for Communities, is also here and will represent himself and his organization as you entertain the second application before you this evening. We are excited to present these plans to you tonight because we hope to bring to reality these plans for the benefit of our city and our downtown's economic vitality. As noted, the Mayor and the City Council have approved the sale of these properties to Union Savings Bank, who will acquire all 3 properties, and the 2 at 116 Main Street and 6 Fountain Street will then be merged into 1 for the development of the proposed Union Savings Bank building, and the second would be for the transfer of the property, once we acquire the property from the city, to the Connecticut Institute for Communities for the development of their federally qualified health center, the location of the Connecticut Institute for Communities corporate headquarters and offices, as well as the development of up to 48 units of senior housing and housing for veterans age 55 and over. At the end of the day, with obviously hopefully your favorable review and approval of all city agencies and all meeting all city requirements, we would be looking at an $18 to $20 million reinvestment on these properties that roughly accumulate about 2 acres. We believe this is a win-win-win proposition for all of us within the community of Danbury. The city of Danbury itself will be inuring the revenue benefit from properties that then will become part of the taxable grand list base, as well as the revenues associated with the construction activities and all of the fees associated with such activity. In addition, Union Savings Bank would be vacating the premises at 158 Main Street in the library building, of which the second floor is connected to the main library building and currently occupies the technology center. And that entire building then would be made available for the Danbury Public Library's uses, as well as having all of the parking totally dedicated then 24/7 for municipal parking and obviously for dedicated parking for library uses throughout the course of its hours of operations. And the city also will see the redevelopment of the functional reuse of what are now vacant and growing to be blighted properties that are on our main street no longer needed by our police department, and they have relocated to the beautiful facility at the north end of Maine. In addition, the bank was a benefit because we have a much better drive-up condition with your approval, as well as we believe a more accessible, handicap accessible, more environmentally sound environment for the benefit of those who access Union Savings Bank services. The Connecticut Institute for Community, which provides health, housing, and educational services to the people of our community, will see the benefit for all of those people who avail themselves of services and more as a result of the development of these facilities in our community. I believe will be better served as a whole. And certainly, St. Peter Church and Parish has been a partner in this whole process, as you will hear in particular through the second hearing this evening, who will also benefit with improvements along their parking facility along Center Street and Main Street. So there really is a win-win-win situation here for all parties concerned, as we will see a major renovation and uplifting of this entire neighborhood area. There will be a significant private investment and reinvestment into these formerly or currently city-owned properties. And there will be significant economic activity that will be a derivative as a result of this investment in new construction. When all is said and done, there may be approximately 100 employees working in these facilities, not to mention between 48 and perhaps double that number that will be occupying housing in the housing element proposed at 120 Main Street, all of which presents opportunities for people to live downtown, to work downtown, to do business downtown, to access the services that are available downtown, and in particular for the economic benefit of those businesses that already exist in the downtown, as those nearly 100 employees, half of which will be of significant income, will have the opportunity to frequent our restaurants and other businesses here for the overall benefit and economic benefit of the downtown as a whole. Truly, when, from our perspective at the bank, speaking specifically to this application this evening, we recognize that within the CDCBD zone, the bank is an allowable use. We are before you because of the drive-up requirement of a special exception review by the Planning Commission this evening. We believe we have complied with all of the regulations of the City of Danbury as we presented them to the Planning Department this evening, and certainly I want to thank the Director of Planning, Ben Selker, and certainly his staff and Jennifer Unger for the work that they've done in reviewing our plans over the last few weeks to prepare for this evening as well. At this point, I'd like to presentation in detail to you of that which is applicable to the first application, which is the bank special exception for the driveway. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, Tom. Thank you, Gene, and thank you to all the members of the team who I'm working in association with, ID3A and the entire team. I'd like to first walk you through, and I'll try to do this as quickly a flow as possible, a little bit of project area, give you a sense of the surrounding area. Some of the things that we really looked at and we thought about as we generated the architecture, we developed the planning, and thought about the project as a whole. This image, and I don't think my laser pointer is going to work on it just because it's a monitor, but Main Street to the right, this is on the park, the St. Peter's Church, basically the roads and the projects that I refer to are the ones we really are going to be talking more about, that we really pulled our cues from. Not only the church, but the rectory building, and these adjoining buildings, and Main Street character as a whole. There's a lot of detail in what really makes the street successful, but if we sort of step back and think about it as a whole, the scale of the street wall, the edges that are formed by groupings of tall buildings all work in concert to be successful. And we really looked at that and studied that as we developed this particular project. In general terms, there are three subject areas we're covering tonight. The Union Savings Bank parcel on the corner of Baldwin, Maine, the Kennedy Institute property, also on the same corner just across from Baldwin, then across the street to St. Peter's parking. So in more detail, in this piece of our presentation, we'll talk about the USB site. Some existing architecture that is vacant and been seen a number of uses over the years, but now kind of past their time. We're looking at the removal of these three structures, the existing original residential building on the corner, gone through other uses over time, and then also the fire station. These are views from Main Street, from Baldwin, in the lower right-hand corner is a view of that fire station from Baldwin. As we developed the USB branch and the adjoining properties of overall property, we as a firm and as professionals had the luxury of looking back on kind of where we all started with design intent. We had, together with USB and senior staff, developed their signature branch design, which is being implemented either through renovation of the existing branches or as new standalone construction, based on a number of what Union Savings Bank felt was drivers in terms of how they work and how they have to present themselves and how their architecture should read and feel. Some of those messages that became clear to us as we went through this process, and this is a few years back, our characteristics of USB, timeless, community-oriented, historic, neighborhood and community-oriented, basically, a lot of the characteristics they embody as a culture, as a bank, but also how the buildings represent them. An important one, I think, a lot of traditional and stable is the Danbury character. Because it's a bank from Danbury, all their branches are looking like this character, this brick building that's rooted and grounded. So as we developed their brand, all these phrases came to mind and kind of drove the image. A good example is their North Street headquarters branch. I think everybody's familiar with that. Also, their first standalone branch that is being constructed is in Monroe, and it's close to completion. The exterior is completely working on the interior. That's an image of what that will look like when the project is completed. We'll get into a little more detail of exactly what the Main Street branch will look like. First, we're going to cover the site and all those pieces. James Donor from the Donor Associates will be coming up and start to walk you through that.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jane Dodona. I'm the principal of Dodona Associates Landscape Architects, and I'm very pleased to be part of this team. And would like to now get into the details of the site and how the site evolved. First, I'd like to just discuss the existing site as it is now. As described before, it's two parcels that are going to be merged into one parcel, which will now create a total of 0.49 half an acre. It's in the CCBD zone, and it's currently consisting of a single-family house that was a doctor's office for a while, and then was bought by the city and became the community service division for the police department. There are some garage outbuildings, and there's a vacant fire station that also became part of the police station as the evidence division, and then some parking. It's bounded by the east by Main Street and by the north by Bowden Street. Our proposal is for a proposed use of Bank Financial Institute. The regulations don't really have any minimum lot area, width, yards, gross floor area, and coverage, but we have provided them on your cover sheet, so you would have them for your information. The building is 2,365 square feet of gross floor area, and with drive-through. The bank is a permitted use, but the drive-through does require a special exception in this zone. As described before, this branch is being moved from the space that it occupies within the Danbury Library to this location, providing opportunities for not only the library but for Union Savings Bank. It's going to be an iconic building for Main Street. Its location across from Elmwood Park, which I just have to tell you, I designed. I said that so Dennis would get upset.
Is that why you moved to the back?
Dennis, myself, and Jean Eriquez met in 1997, believe it or not. And Elmwood Park is going to be celebrating its 13th year this year. When that park was conceptualized, we were called crazy. Because if you recall before, it was just two mud-filled islands with overgrown trees. And we, the team, created this iconic place that has been called Danbury's Precious Treasure. And more recently, I just got a phone call last year from someone who actually told me that they had suffered from depression and that walking through Elmwood Park every day and seeing the beauty of that park transform each season assisted in their health and saved their life. And I started bawling my eyes out because that's what a landscape architect wants to hear, is that a place that special has transformed somebody's life. And I think there's many people in this city that have enjoyed the benefits of Elmwood Park. And so when I was approached to do this project, and the reason being is they wanted to incorporate the elements of Elmwood Park in the site plan, I felt that this was really another example of how Elmwood Park has transformed that end of the city of Danbury, if not the entire city of Main Street. It was a risk in 1997, and it was a very good risk to take. It's going to incorporate and extend the beauty of that park to the street and create another example of importance of beauty in our lives, which is not superfluous. It's important to us. So in our site plan, in our streetscape, and I do have a hard copy and also on the screen, so whichever you're more comfortable looking at, is that the Bowden Street, all the way from the corner of the property, all the way to the corner of Main Street, and from Main Street all the way to the corner of the property, is going to look like Elmwood Park. We're going to take the paving patterns. We're going to take the beautiful plantings, the roses, the catnip. Everyone calls me every year, what's those blue flowers? It's catnip. And it still looks beautiful. I just drove by there now and they've just mulched the park. So we're going to take that and put that in front of this beautiful building. And we're going to have lighting. We're going to have the Elmwood Park walls. We're going to have granite curbing. Going to have new walkways, street trees, and of course, the Union Savings Bank clock. So that's going to create an iconic corner when you're coming from North Main Street to South Main Street. Another beautiful place to rest your eyes on. Once we go into the site, we're not going to forget about that beauty. Of course, we're going to have our parking. Our access is two-way from Boughton Street. And then you go through the drive-through. You can either use the drive-through, which is going to have a draw. It's going to have a, I call it this technical thing, a tubey thing, whatever that is. And then it's going to have an ATM. And then a pass-through lane. When you exit the drive-through, you will obviously, but there will be signage in case people don't think that's obvious, have to make a right-hand turn onto Main Street. There will be the beautiful lights, so we are going to continue that design vocabulary into the back. There is no back of this bank. Every side is beautiful. Every side is articulated. The drive-through will have enough stacking area for the cars, which is not the case, I understand, at the library branch right now. So we are improving that situation. Now, parking requirements. We have a usable gross floor area of 2,010 square feet. And using the divider of 150 square feet per space, that translates into 14 spaces required and 1 handicap space. We are providing 16 9x20 spaces, and then because we're allowed to do 30% of the requirement compact, we're also including 4 compact spaces for a total of 20 spaces plus 1 van handicap space. The reason for that additional space will become clear in the next application. There's no loading requirement for the bank. And there is no dumpster because the service company that takes care of the banks, all the banks, not just this one, removes and recycles all products and waste that the bank produces. And they're very big in recycling as far as paper and electronics, light bulbs, etc. Also, they also remove all the snow. So they don't even just pile the snow, they actually remove it for the convenience of their customers. Now, on top of all of this, there's also the idea of the pedestrian and the pedestrian access. The Boughton Street access is the handicap access, and we are creating a connection from our parking area using, again, beautiful Elmwood Park pavers and connecting to the handicap access on Boughton Street, which will also have the pedestrian ATM. And then the last part of the pedestrian aspect is that the city asked us through this application process, please be so kind as to improve the crosswalks in 7 locations in this area. And so the bank has agreed to improve those crosswalks, upgrading those crosswalks to the same crosswalk detail that is on Y Street, which is a street print crosswalk. So they'll be improving the crosswalks in front of the bank, in front of the Connecticut Institute site, in front of St. Peter's, down south towards St. Peter's School, and across from St. Peter's School on the other side of Elmwood Park. So 7 crosswalks will also be started to improve on Main Street. We have gotten reports from the city, staff reports. We got approval of the traffic from the traffic engineer and the traffic authority. I do want to say that there is no traffic study required for this project, but we did ask Mr. Galante's firm, F.P. Clark, to review the traffic issues that are on any site, and the bank site specifically. And he indicated to us in his letter, which was submitted with our application, that there are insignificant impacts from the traffic generated by the bank. The staff reports also from building, P&Z, and engineering have all been positive. So at this point, I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Michael Mizuko so he can now discuss with you the technical parts of the utilities and the stormwater management.
Commission members, any questions for Mr. Galante this time? Thank you.
Yes, building, planning, zoning, engineering, the traffic, fire marshal, and the traffic authority, which I believe is the police chief.
Right. Mr. Chairman, so that'll take the comments.
We'll ask Ms. Senator in a second, Senator. Thanks, Mr. Lewis.
It's okay. Mr. Chairman, at this point, we have all departmental comments and except the Construction Services Department. I spoke with them this afternoon. They're currently finishing their review. We should have it at some point tomorrow.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Miller.
Good evening. For the record, Mike Mizuko, professional engineer. My office is in Danbury. And I'll just try to go to I don't have my plans on the PowerPoint, so I'm going to refer to the boards. So I'm just going to try to head over in that direction.
Take the mic with you. Thank you. Hopefully we'll reach. Could we maybe put that a little closer to us so we can see it a little better?
Sure.
I know we want to make sure we want people in the gallery to see it too. We know if we can see it a little better. Thank you. Thank you.
This map is a map of the 500-foot driveway area map. It shows the site with the surrounding area 500 feet, and it shows the topography, existing buildings, roads, and again driveways. The map next to that is the flood insurance rate map, and it's a little hard to see, but in the center of that is the site, and it does show that there is no floodplain in the area. I'd also like to note that there are no wetlands and no regulated activities associated with this proposed development. There's no exchange of that.
Was the wrong one?
Yes. Hopefully that's.
No, this is the union.
There you go. You got mine next.
We'll have to do
There we go. This is a map of the existing conditions, and it just shows the existing building at the corner. There is a parking area associated with that building, and then the detached garage. And then on the Bowden Street site, which is the old firehouse, it shows that the existing building, there's a parking area, and then there's a garage in the back. You can see that most of that site is either building or pavement. And the existing topography is that it drops in a southerly direction and then an easterly direction. So there's about anywhere from 6 to 8 feet of grade change in the site. There's the existing utilities are water, sewer, gas, and they're on Bowden Street as well as Main Street. The existing drainage patterns are such that the Bowden Street site, there's a sort of a break in the topography. So most of the water that drains from that site heads in a southerly direction towards St. Peter's property. The Main Street site heads to a catch basin, existing catch basin in the corner of the parking lot. There's an existing 15-inch pipe that ties into the catch basin that's in Main Street. And so what we did was we analyzed the drainage in the entire site of the different areas, and we tried to just maintain the flow so we didn't exceed the existing conditions. This is the improved site proposal, and you can see the parking lots the drainage systems that we have. And what we did was, because our drainage system picks up the majority of the water from the Danbury site, we have a substantial reduction in the flow to the St. Peter's property. The flow then heads to a detention system, which picks up the building, the smaller parking area, just to the west of the bank, and the drive-up area. That gets routed through the detention system and then heads back into that same pipe out to Main Street. And I would just like to note that, we're sensitive to the drainage issues that are in this area, and we definitely wanted to maintain the flow out of that catch basin, the existing catch basin, into Main Street. So when we analyzed the flows, when we added the...
Hold on 1 second, please.
Sorry, I'm sure Keith. Go ahead.
Thanks.
When we looked at the total flows from the site for a 25-year storm event, the flows, existing conditions were 2.5 CFS. When we finished analyzing the site, routing it through the detention system, the design, the outflow from the site, developed conditions was 1.3 CFS. So we had a 48% reduction in the flow out of the site because of the limitation that we wanted to keep on that pipe going out, the existing pipe going out to Main Street. So, again, we were very sensitive to the drainage issues out there and maintaining the flows to the existing conditions.
Mr. Rice, you have a question?
Just go ahead and finish with the drainage. So you can finish up with the drainage and every couple of questions.
On the drainage? We do have a number of, because there were several buildings out there, we do have a number of existing lateral connections that we'll need to terminate. So we're showing all those being terminated, and then newer connections. And that's really about it in terms of the utilities and the drainage.
Mr. Rice?
The drainage that comes off from the west end of the property that would normally have gone over to St. Peter's property, we're now capturing most of that and putting it through the retention system.
That's correct.
So we're going to be diverting more water over towards the Main Street sewer system, which we know floods from time to time. What's the differential in the total water flow to come off of that property towards Main Street as opposed to existing conditions?
Well, the existing flow that we had to Main Street was about 1.6 CFS. So we have a small amount bypassing a tenth of a CFS. So if we had, say, 1.6 CFS, we're now going to have 1.3. So we still have a 0.3 CFS decrease going to Main Street.
What's the capacity of that retention basin?
In terms of,
I'm just, visualizing flooding Main Street down there, and just, how much of a rainstorm can that hold before it becomes overwhelmed and just...
well, it's a 25-year storm design, which is the requirement of the city. So now don't forget that the water that comes off of the westerly side does eventually get back out to Main Street.
Yeah.
So it's just that it's getting out into a different area, but ultimately it does go back out to Main Street. So, when you look at that micro area, it's 0.3 CFS less, but when you look at the whole thing, ultimately it's 1.2 CFS reduction.
Okay. And the impervious surface change?
Well, it did. I mean, we did have an increase in impervious surface, but it wasn't substantial because most of the Fountain Street site was almost 90% covered already. And then you had the large parking area, and then the building. So, most of that right there was all impervious anyway, existing.
Thank you.
Now, we did receive comments, as Jane had mentioned, from engineering, and we did respond to those, and I guess they did respond back with there was 2 pieces of information that we need to supply, but it's forthcoming.
Ms. Allen?
Mr. Chairman, we received this afternoon from the engineering department a letter that states that the plans are generally acceptable. They're still waiting for the needed fire flow analysis. Once that becomes available, those details will need to be submitted.
And then just the last part of it is just a detail sheet showing the construction details. So if there's not any other questions, I'll turn it back over to the architect, project architect, for his further review of the building itself.
So moving on to the floor plan, we wanted to give you a sense of exactly what the goings on inside the building. This is oriented just like the site plan is. North is up on the plan. The 2 entrances, as I'm sure you're aware at this point, Main Street and Fountain. And we have a ray off of that Main Street entrance and along Fountain. A number of officers, branch and assistant branch manager's office. The teller area is on the lower part of the plan, in this area here, and then the main public area in the center. All the branches, as we develop them, we strive to keep them as transparent as possible. So you'll see in the elevations, in some of the renderings, very large windows. There's transoms above the windows. The ceiling's very high. We really do our best to have the banking exterior, the interior and exterior correct, and there's a little more connection with the surrounding neighborhood. We have 4 elevations here on the upper part of the slide facing Main Street. Bottom Street elevation here. In general, the building is it has a pitched roof, appears as a pitched roof. We've gone through great pains in the development of the signature branch design to not see any flat roof areas, to hide all of the mechanical units. There are no condensers, none of those things that you typically will see on a pad-like development that you might have for a bank. Those are all up in a row. In the center of the building, you really can't see them from the exterior at all.
What's the maximum elevation on the roof? What's the highest point?
The highest point, I would probably read it best here. Excuse me a second.
Thank you.
It's 26 feet, I believe, to the very tallest point of the roof. The eave is at 12 feet.
Thank you.
The top elevation faces the parking area, and then the elevation on the taller side. As Jane mentioned, there really is no back side to the building. We've designed them all to read and feel like you're not looking at the back of the building. You understand that essentially with where the building is located, you really see all 4 sides. They're all being interacted with. A view of the exterior, and I really save this one to talk more about the architecture. Each branch design has this large base of buildings. So the brick comes down. Typically, a brick building nowadays is built as a veneer, They're not load bearing. There's much less opportunity without spending much of the cost to have that relief of the brick. Union has made it a priority to really make this building look traditional, like it fits in. So we have, again, the base of the building coming out. We have this accent band of brick through the transom area here. Where you normally have one column and pediment, there's a cluster of three. There's just much more detail.
Excuse me, is it just the drive-through ATM or is ATM inside also?
No, that's a great question, thank you. That Bowden Street entrance is a walk-up ATM. And that is an accessible ATM, and actually this is a great segue. We have a night view because we realize how important it will be at night, how often it will be used at night. Not only as access to the ATM, and nowadays ATMs are really an important part of the community. So it's important that you saw that it was well lit. Again, the transparency was there. This shows pretty well in a night image. You really don't have an issue feeling safe going to a space that can be seen into and it's well lit. The other thing that's important is, again, the building's presence, the building's location, and how it reads at night really affects all the surrounding areas. So you're feeling more safe with what appears to be activity.
And Ron, excuse me, is there also a drive-up ATM or not just the one inside?
We have planned for a future drive-up, but there isn't one plan because there isn't one being sold at this point.
So it's not a plan. Thank you.
A little bit about the materials, briefly. I can hand it to you if you'd like to see them. The main body of the building, brick. There is the accent band you see along the transom close to the eave, slightly different. These are the exact same brick used on the North Street project. The door is cherry finished wood, so the door kind of pops and is kind of welcoming.
Ron, is it just the one street entrance off of that one, or is there another street entrance on the back, or another parking lot entrance per se? So is the front entrance and there's another entrance, or is it just that one entrance?
There's two main entrances. What you're seeing, and I'll put to the right image there, the image on the right. That is the Bowden Street entrance, which reads as the main entrance. This elevation will also read as the front of the building on Main Street. The building, it's really works as a corner building with both approaches being relatively equal.
Thank you.
There is a little bit of detail, a little bit of precast on the top of those chimney caps and the caps of the piers where the columns come down. Finally, the tone of the white is an antique white or colonial white. It's not bright white. It's a little bit off, a little warmer than just a bright white. And with that, to close this piece of our presentation, Gene will come back up. Gene will come back up and make some closing remarks.
Mr. Uri's question?
Before you get away from the layouts, on the parking in the non-back of the building, is that a ramp right there by the building, the handicap ramp coming down from the parking lot in some of the early drawings we saw? No, right there, yeah. Is that a handicap ramp?
Yes, it's a handicap accessible walkway. Ramp.
Is that where the handicap parking will be?
Yes, the handicap parking is, this is Jane Doan, by the way. Handicap parking is adjacent right to that walkway, which is handicap accessible.
Thank you.
That's a run-close. I mean, that's not a handicap slope.
It's not a ramp. No, the ramp would indicate that it has a slope. It's pretty much, I think it has a 2% slope.
There was one other question on the way on the parking lot. Is that a two-lane drive-through? And it's all one way towards Main Street? You can't turn in, I mean, I see the driveway, which is discouraged turning in from there, but it's going to be signed with no entrance.
There'll be several signs that say do not enter one way, etc.
Thank you.
it's a one-way driveway.
It's one way, it's two-way on Battle Street, and one way, 2 lanes, one way to go to the window and then, like I said, the two-piece. I'm sure there's a more technical term for that. And then I'm a landscape architect. And then there's a bypass lane in case you've gone down there and decided, gee, I really didn't want to go to the drive-through, so you can bypass.
Mr. Grace, anything further? Thank you.
Thank you, Ron and Jane. Mr. Chairman, this is Gene Erickles, Union Savings Bank again. Just to further clarify, if I may, there's an entrance and exit from the Bowden Street side, because we want to provide the opportunity for those who want to walk in the branch to the business to be able to exit out the Bowden Street side as well. And certainly we meet all the regulations and see them back for driveway width. But it also presents the opportunity for people to be able to use the bypass lane to be able to take that right-hand turn. The shape of that drive, as you may notice, directs you to that right-hand turn only out onto the Main Street exit.
So it's a raised median, or it's something that's going to really curve out to really prevent people from making a left?
Yes. Yes. And there are basically 2 lanes, as has been identified as a drive-up. One is a drive-up for the deal drawer, as it's referred to, the teller window drawer. At the same time, someone could be queued, as they are now at the 158 Main Street location, although there won't be parking to the side and people trying to bypass that, nor will you be turning out into an intersection with a traffic light. So it'll be a much better condition turning out of this location than we currently have, and that currently exists at the 158 Main Street location. Lastly, I just want to say that in conclusion, before we entertain your questions and address any particular concerns that you and or the public may have, that we at Union Savings Bank are devoted to our mission to provide a safe and secure environment for our customers, consumers, employees, and the communities that we serve and in which we do business. We maintain a focus and a priority on ensuring accessibility for persons with disabilities, with accessible restrooms, teller windows, check desks, and other amenities while they are in our bank and doing business outside of our bank. We are also devoted to the environment with which we coexist. Our intent is to do our part in beautifying our environment and our surroundings. We are engaged in extensive recycling programs, energy efficiencies, reusing recyclable materials in the development of our buildings, both at the exterior and interior where possible. And I believe this particular project that's presented to you this evening meets all of those objectives that we at the bank have. Lastly, I just wanted to add that the timetable, that if, again, we do meet with your favorable approval this evening, our intention would be to close with the city in accord with the contract in which we have engaged on or about June 1st, and at which point we would move expeditiously to demolish 2 existing buildings and their outbuildings on these properties, and hopefully by the middle of July, start to see this bank building rising from the ground with an expected completion toward the end of this year. And with that, I thank you.
Ms. Hoskins?
Regarding the construction with demolition cases, you'll be putting up fencing, I assume, around the area, but how is that going to impact pedestrian traffic?
We will be working on site to move the buildings and the garage. They are set back off of the sidewalks now, and the work, as I understand it from our demolition contractor, licensed demolition contractor, is that he would work from within the site in the parking area, taking the small garage that's adjacent to the building on the corner of Main and Bowden, then the building on the corner, and then work to remove the former evidence building of the police department as the next step.
Okay, so you're saying that the fencing would go up and still leave the sidewalk?
That's correct.
And then, I guess, when you get to sidewalk renovation or replacement, you'd be detouring the pedestrians in from?
We'll be remember doing the streetscape on Main Street and having to incur all of those challenges. And so we'll be certainly along that Bowden Street area. We'll be trying to make accommodations for any disruption as a result of the replacement of the sidewalks and the added streetscape elements along the Main Street portion in front of the bank as well.
Mr. Harris?
Mr. Chairman, Mayor, request. Transition, and you're going to abandon your existing facility there on Main Street, I mean, the drive-up facility, not everything on Main Street. Is that going to be closed immediately after the opening of this facility?
Yes, the agreement with the city is that we would vacate, terminate that lease, then turn that property over entirely to the city as it's city-owned. Had been bank-owned, which obviously bought it. We expanded the library subsequent to the library fire. And the arrangement was the Union Savings Bank would remain in that first floor for a period of time to its lease arrangements. And as the bank was looking to extend that lease, there was some friendly opposition from library patrons, library leadership, and friends of the library that they would really need and like to have that space available to them. And I think everyone feels that entire building should be dedicated for Danbury Public Library's uses or accessory uses.
Understand the traffic study is not really required, but since you did one,
We're going to review this.
3 months.
since it's before us, it may be different than what you desire, but substantially the traffic's not going to change between the two facilities. I mean, I know you'd like for it to be a lot more traffic in the facility. It's really just moving it from a couple blocks down the street.
Right. We're making a significant reinvestment in the acquisition of this property as well as the development of the building, which we believe is very aesthetically pleasing, fits in with Main Street, adds to that economic vitality so looking to drive, and hopefully will spur other economic development in not only this area of Main Street, but other locations along adjacent to it. But that's correct. I must admit, though, to you that walk-up ATM is one of the busiest in all of our 28 branch networks right now.
So I assume with the other project, you're expecting it to be even more busy.
Well, I think we're providing that totally handicap accessible ATM walk-up along the Boughton Street side. I think it'll be better lighted, it'll be a better condition overall, it'll be better parking to be able to access it, even for persons with disabilities, as that's primarily all grade leading into that particular area. So but again, we do have our main bank function still at the main office of the clock at 226 Main Street. Our corporate offices, of course, are entirely located within the gallery at 225 Main Street. So this really serves as a retail branch location that meets the needs of people who are looking for the accessible services that the bank provides today.
Considering, again, the ancillary project that you've got going on, will be going all across the street, the walk-up ATM, which I would assume will be very accessible to the housing project that's proposed across the street. Is that, there's going to be security cameras in that area?
Absolutely. There will be cameras inside the building, on the outside of the building, and within the parking lot.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I'd like to kind of add on to that question on there. The lighting during non-business hours, since there's an ATM there, I would assume that it'll be pretty lit up 24/7.
Yes, as the nighttime rendering depicted, we are lighting that vestibule tremendously, as you can see. It really does invite. It's a secure environment, and it's more inviting, frankly, than the existing situation at 158 Main Street. So this is a much better condition. People will be very visible from traffic heading southbound on Main Street or any traffic along Boughton Street as well. And we have the necessary security and ensure to deter any potential problems that could arise.
I just had one other question on traffic, Mayor. And according to the traffic report I have in front of me, it's expected, this project's expected to anticipate to generate an average of about 400 vehicle trips. How does that compare to what we see at North Street?
North Street is more. Not exactly sure of the exact counts I can get those figures, Chairman, but North Street is very active investment.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this application? No? State your name and address for the record, please.
I'm Lynn Waller, 83 Highland Avenue, Danbury, Connecticut. I'm one of the handicapped folks that may be using this bank. And I appreciate all the help that we can get. I appreciate and approve of this plan as well as the opposite side of the street. I'm not sure how much longer I'm going to be able to stay for the public hearing. But I had a couple questions on this, and some of them dealt with the lighting. Will that be shining into any individual housing units that are going to be built with the new development or that are already there from St. Peter's? I've had a problem with lighting shining into my property from some other place that bothers me. So if they're going to be putting housing close by, I just want to be sure the lights aren't going to be affecting people who are trying to sleep all night. And I also am worried about people being jumped from the bushes as they go to the ATM. So that's probably, you don't want to get really tall bushes. The other thing I questioned, and this came to my mind, I should have mentioned it yesterday when we met with Mayor Eric President and Congressman Maloney, the crosswalks. Down in New Jersey, I have known and have seen a lot of them raise up just a little bit, and they put lighting on the edge of the crosswalk. So when the pedestrian is in the crosswalk, the lights light. So it warns drivers that there's someone there. And I know we don't do it yet. I brought it up to Mayor Boughton a couple of years ago, and I guess there's no money to do it. But these aren't nearly as long crosswalks, but it might be something to think about if you're going to improve the crosswalks anyway, that maybe it would be something that we could put in and help the pedestrians, especially if you have a lot of seniors on canes or in wheelchairs. It takes them a little longer to get across streets than average. So, but I highly approve of what they are presenting. The buildings look beautiful. I switched banking and went to North Street. It was so lovely because of the handicapped accessible portion of it. So I do approve of that, and I especially approve of the housing. We've been trying to get that for years, so it's nice to see that they're going forward with it. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this application? Anyone wishing to speak in favor? Anybody else wishing to speak in favor? Is there anyone here wishing to speak in opposition to this application? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Anybody wishing to speak in opposition? Ms. Eminger, any further comments from staff on this?
Mr. Chairman, at this point, I request that you keep the hearing open so we're able to receive final sets of maps from the applicant. At this point, all comments from the various departments, other than construction services, have been resolved. We're just waiting for that final set to come in. And staff has no additional comments or concerns.
Yours?
I agree, probably need to keep it open until next week's meeting. But considering how the staff reports are read, we might move this to old business for consideration to discuss. Maybe we get the directions to staff on our intent, and if so meets the commission, then we might get this approved next meeting.
Is that a motion that you're making to move this?
Yes,
We did. We did.
but I'll make that when we do the continuation.
Would the applicant like to respond to the question from Ms. Waller this time, or anybody else to respond to Sarah, please? Mr. Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jim Eric, Union Savings Bank. With regard to the lighting, obviously at the various 31 properties that Union Savings Bank now owns and operates in this business, we're sensitive to our neighbors and certainly the lighting, and we will ensure that the lighting is not obtrusive and it's not going to be affecting any of our neighbors, be it St. Peter Rectory, the new housing or commercial development that hopefully will be developed on the other side of Allen Street or in senior housing. With regard to any shrubbery, we don't have any shrubbery. We have a standard whereby shrubbery really needs to, when it's adjacent to the building, needs to be no taller than first grill or mullion within the windows, so that in fact people can't be jumping out of bushes, if you will. And I haven't heard of the type of crosswalks. Union Savings Bank has offered to apply the new crosswalks to the 7 locations that Mr. Dona had identified. And so if there were any other enhancements or types of crosswalks that the city would desire, we're amenable to doing that as long as we can afford it. No,
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Okay, at this point in time, I would entertain a motion to continue the public hearing until Wednesday, May 4th. Second. Motion made by Ms. Hassler, second by Mr. Ruiz. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr.
sort of
Ruiz.
move that we move this to old business for discussion for staff items.
I'll second.
Okay, so we also have a motion on the table to move this item to old business for consideration for possible action. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor of continuing the public hearing and moving it to old business for consideration for this evening, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Okay, this application is moved to continuation and for old business for consideration later this evening. Okay, the next public hearing that will be here this evening, that was scheduled for 7:40 p.m. City of Danbury Union Savings Bank, Connecticut Institute for Communities Incorporated application for special exception 120 Main Street to permit 1, garden apartments, 2, a use of combination of uses which will generate over 500 vehicle trips per day, and number 3, shared parking in the CBD zone, Main Street and Blount Street, lot numbers I-14135 and I-14437, shared parking on lots I-14379, I-14380, I-14381, I-14382, I-14383, I-14384, I-14385 with access over I-14378, special exception number 713. Mr. Ruiz, if you would read the public notice, please.
We just did.
We need to read it again.
Okay. Notice is hereby given, the Planning Commission of the City of Danbury will hold public hearings commencing at 7:30 p.m. on April 27, 2011, in the City Council chambers of City Hall 155 Deerfield Avenue to consider the following matter. City of Danbury, Union Savings Bank, Connecticut Institute for Communities, Inc. Application for special exception, 120 Main Street, to permit 1, garden apartments, 2, a use or combination of uses, which will generate.
Mr. Ruiz, and Mr. Ruiz, if you'd like, you can waive the reading of the other documents.
Okay. Combination of uses which will generate over 500 vehicle trips per day, and 3, shared parking in the CBD zones, Main Street and Downton Street. Without objection, I will waive the reading of the lot numbers. Special exception 713.
Thank you, Mr. Ruiz.